Hey, what's up guys? Evan Aldo here. Wanted to do a different type of video. Doing it outside in the balcony. Got new mic set up, so we should be good in terms of audio quality. There are a lot of noises all around. We got planes flying, we got air conditioning units going. I gotta close my door right here, but there's a lot of, we got the train back there. Anyway, side note, you guys don't care, but anyway, a few things I wanted to talk to you about right now is kind of, a concept that I've kind of learned today involving, basically involving like doing the things you like to do and making money on that, expanding yourself through those things, bettering yourself, living a life of freedom, living a life that you want, where you could live anywhere, you can wake up when you want, you have all that freedom, that type of stuff. Some people may say, out of the Matrix, that type of thing that's been popularized by a lot of people. And ultimately, we want to look at people who have done it. And there's a few examples. So I was watching a video by Alex Becker today, who's worth, I believe, over $100 million. His business was acquired, or he sold it or whatever for, that's not relevant, for over $100 million. And he was doing one video where he lived in a nice house, had the $400,000 car, all that, maybe $10 million, $20 million house. And then he, it's funny, really a lot of the things that do get the views too are like the comedic aspects, the humor too in it. Like he would do a lot of these videos a few years ago, like in 2020, where it was like, I'm woke, empty house, all this type of stuff. And he moved from that to basically a nice apartment with a sick view, a view probably even nicer than this kind of back view here. I gotta find, I don't even open the windows in my apartment. I don't even know if I could position the camera with a cool view. Probably not, because it's not pointed towards this way. But anyway, what was I gonna say? Yeah, so he had that $7,000 apartment, $7,000 a month, which is a lot. That's more than I pay in one of the best locations in the U.S., one of the best locations in Miami. So he wasn't that minimalistic. I mean, $7,000 a month is a lot. But anyway, he was minimalistic, so he was able to, he probably was earning $100,000 a month or more, able to save a lot of that money, have that pure freedom, and do what he wanted to do, make the videos about the things he wanted to make them about, focus on the businesses that he wanted to focus on, do the things he wanted to do. Now let's compare that to an even bigger person, somebody who's even a lot bigger. Let's say, an example, Tom Brady. I like this example. If you guys are not familiar, I've been was a huge Tom Brady fan. I think he's retired now. Don't think he's ever play football again. But you look at kind of, he said in a lot of interviews, I did what I like to do. I was able to do what I like to do. And obviously, when you're that big of a star, when you already made all that money, maybe when after he won a first Super Bowl or second Super Bowl, after that you kind of you're set for life. After the first 3 Super Bowls, let's say, from year 2001 to 2005, 6 or whatever, I think that was when he won the first 3. He kept going after that, even though it was tougher and it looked like he may never win another Super Bowl again after losing 2 against the Giants. He kept going and kept persevering. And I think the only way you're kind of able to do that at that point, I mean, I could be wrong on this, but the only way you're able to kind of do that at that point after having that much success is you really, really like what you're doing, kind of regardless of the outcome. So you have to really, really, really like what you're doing. And he was kind of just, I know Bob Proctor said at one point, heard Bob Proctor say one time, he had to realize that he was just trying to be, I had to be me, I had to be myself, I had to be me. That's the important thing. He wasn't being me, he wasn't kind of being himself. And that's obviously a kind of loaded term, be yourself, that type of stuff. I mean, what does that mean? What the hell does that mean? Nobody really, it's just kind of an overused term. But I mean, kind of doing the things that you like in a lot of ways, I think is ultimately important. Maybe making the videos that you want to make, doing the things that you're interested in, and then kind of being creative with it. I think creativity is kind of important. And going back to kind of the Tom Brady example, I think ultimately this is a thing not too many people think about, but when you have some success in your life, especially when you're younger, or especially, you have some success in your life and you're above a lot of your peers or whatever, you're thinking, because I remember I made a video a while ago, like your life, about a year ago when I was in Mexico. I made this video with pretty bad sound quality because of all the wind and stuff on the beach in Mexico. But should have had this mic for it. Should have had this mic for it. But you know, and I was talking about how your life can change in a year, how you can go from kind of nothing to a big thing in a year. And there's a lot of people who have done that. And a lot of people in the comments said, like, your life can, a lot of people in this comment said your life can also be negative. It could get really bad in a year too. It could change for the worst in 6 months or a year. And sure, anything's possible, yes. But you look at some greats, you know, somebody like Tom Brady. Yeah, he didn't have that many, you know, that many bad, like, nothing that bad happened. Like, what's the way he tore his ACL? It's not that bad. I mean, compared to a lot of the injuries football players get. I mean, it was out for the season, but that's not, I don't think that's not that gruesome of a, you know, it's not a terrible, I'm not too familiar with it, but that's not something where, that's not as bad as breaking a bone or anything that bad. Had some setbacks, yeah, he lost 2 Super Bowls. I mean, even just playing in the Super Bowl is a big, you know, a big feat. So it's not the worst thing, I would say. It's definitely not, you know, not anything that bad. I mean, you could have, it's possible. You can create a manifestation. You can create a life where you have all those amazing things. I don't think somebody like Tom Brady, you know, I'm sure he had some talent. Okay, tall guy, pretty athletic, you know, the common things. But I don't think, you know, I think what separated him from a lot of other people is, you know, he was really into it, you know, actually liked it more, really passionate about it. And, you know, some people don't really have too much of a passion a lot of times, and your passions do change, you know, it changes. You may be into one thing a little bit more than the other sometimes, and that's fine. I mean, I was watching a lot of Alex Becker's videos, and they're different. Some of them are about crypto, some of them are about self-improvement, some of them are about dopamine detox, some of them are about business stuff. You know, it's a lot of different stuff. All of it kind of revolves around things that will theoretically help you make money, you know, dopamine detox, even eating healthy, that type of stuff. I found that channel years ago, and I wasn't even, this was probably before I was even that into crypto, probably, you know, back in 2020 or whatever, maybe before that. And he was talking about either biohacking or something like that. And then I found that channel years later now. Some people don't like him because I guess his NFT collection crashed or whatever. I'm not an expert on NFTs, but he didn't rug pull, I know that. But I mean, you know, you look at people like that, and you gotta find too, like, try to find, I think an important thing too is, like, you guys, like, a lot of you, if you're watching YouTube right now, if you're watching me on YouTube, I'm 13K subscribers, nothing too crazy, obviously. But, you know, if you're watching this, find the people, you know, what, I'm sure there's other people, you know, in this day and age, a lot of young men, they have other their main male role models are people they see on the internet. I'm not going to say any names, but it's a lot of people that are on YouTube, on social media. See kind of what they're doing and try to emulate that, at least to a certain extent. You know, I mean, I used to watch Crypto Face a lot. I still do, obviously, because I really liked him. I thought the stuff he was doing was really cool. I thought his indicator was cool. Other YouTubers I watched as well. I would emulate, you know, the trading, a lot of the stuff they did in a lot of ways. And I think ultimately that's kind of, you know, you are what you pretend to be. I heard that in a podcast, the Tim Ferriss podcast I was listening to it back in 2019. Time flies, man. Time goes by quick. I remember 2019 was an interesting year because that was when I graduated college, and I basically failed at every single thing I tried to do shortly after graduating. But I had, from what I learned too, when, like, maybe not from necessarily in college, but not necessarily from college, but things I learned when I was in college, maybe things I supplemented with, and things I studied. I knew how to face adversity. I knew how to, you know, handle failure and how to handle when things weren't going, you know, as good as they should have been. I knew how to kind of, like Naval Ravikant said one time, you know, if you're really so smart, you would know how to make yourself happy. I was able to kind of do that, even though, you know, the things weren't going as well as they should have been. I was able to make myself do that, and then I just kept learning a lot of new concepts. I remember too, like I chose not to go into the TV news reporting. If you guys don't know, I mean, I majored in broadcast journalism when I was in college. I chose kind of not to do that, and this is gonna sound like maybe a little arrogant, maybe a little egotistical, I don't know. Like I quit a job that I had real quick when I first got it, within like a few days. And the reason was, well, one, I just thought I just wasn't that into it, I guess, I don't know. But two, it's just like, it felt like I had so much more. It felt like I had so much more capability than this. It felt like I had just so much more potential than working. And I don't know if you guys are too familiar. Usually you start out in those positions at like $30K a year, and it's all like, a lot of hours and nonsense and video editing and just stuff I wasn't too into. But I just felt I was worth so much more than that. And I think we all kind of like have that low self-esteem to a certain extent. Now with inflation, it's probably like $40K a year what they would pay. But it was funny too, I forget, like this one news director that I interviewed with, she was like mad that like the company was, I think it was Sinclair, was raising their like minimum wage to $15 an hour. This was back in 2019, back in 2019, I believe. And I found it kind of funny, like how, I forget what the reasoning was. So they had to pay employees more. I don't know. It didn't make sense to me. Some of those people in that industry, like that I interviewed with, some of those people were weird. I remember some like news directors reaching out to me like with like no contact info, like, what are you doing that? It was just such a weird kind of industry, if you will. Like it's just, you gotta like, and the thing too is like people would say like, oh no, you're in your 20s, you gotta work really hard, eat crap, all this. And I think that's kind of a load of nonsense. I think it really is. You don't need, it doesn't have to be that bad. I mean, it really doesn't. And there's that, like, it's hard to explain sometimes. You got to go through like mental blocks sometimes trying to speak about this stuff and explain this stuff. But I think Dan Pena said one of the biggest things that holds us back is kind of low self-esteem. And I see it again and again. I heard Brandon Carter talk about this as well. Low self-esteem really holds you back in a lot of ways. That's a big thing. That determines, what career you end up settling for, and what, who you end up marrying. A lot of stuff like that is based upon self-esteem. And you don't know. It's all kind of a gamble at the end of the day. If you try for something bigger, maybe you'll get it, maybe you won't. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't, I don't know. Obviously, we don't know. There's no, the more I've gone older, the more I've realized, we don't know. There's no complete absolutes in life. There's really a lot of things you just don't know. And I like to try, because, the more and more we realize, got artificial intelligence, people saying, we're in a simulation, all this type of stuff. Like, we're all mortal. You only get so much time. So, you should really try, and I think traveling too, for me, like exploring a lot of new places, around the world that I've seen too. I think that's been pretty beneficial too. And you realize, how different some viewpoints are. Even in your own country, we look at, towards the end of this empire, it just becomes very divided and very populist and very, you see more and more division and more differing opinions and, I guess, animosity towards one another. And, it becomes, with the media and everything, an entertainment factor too. And you look at what's entertaining, and then you see, all the bad actors, the bad people, you say, are they the problem, or are they really the symptom of the problem? And I think it's a lot the symptom of the problem. And I think the problem is just kind of normally what happens, You get kind of spoiled in an empire. You get spoiled when you're on top. And when you're spoiled, you kind of take a lot of things for granted. And I saw it myself in a lot of ways when I went to the University of Miami. A lot of people came from really, really affluent backgrounds. Their parents had a lot more money than my parents had. And not all of them, I would definitely not all of them by any means. Like a lot of people would say like, oh yeah, everybody who's rich is evil, this and that. That's a bunch of bull. That's not true. But a lot of them did take it for granted, and a lot of them messed it up and threw it away. But at the same time, there's something about this that's interesting. A lot of them that messed up and threw it all away, they got it all back. That's what I've noticed. Not all of them, but a lot of them, because it's like the way they're programmed when they're children. It's like law of attraction, the way they're programmed, the way they feel. If you feel like you deserve something, if you pretend to be something, you will become that thing. Now, it's not going to happen overnight. You have to take action. You have to try. I wouldn't say necessarily, like, I would say you have to work hard, but I don't think you have to, kill yourself. You know what I mean? I think if you work there's a whole level of it. If you work too hard, you're just going to burn yourself out, which I've seen that in a lot of ways. It's more about consistency, I think. And sometimes, it's more when you're programmed in a certain way through, whether it's self-hypnosis, everything's kind of hypnosis. Everyone's programmed to a certain extent. You get a lot of programming, and scientifically, I think this is proven. You get a lot of programming in the first 7 years of your life. A lot of programming. That's where a lot of big things happen. And it depends what your parents say to you. If your parents are always negative to you, if everybody around you is always negative, maybe if you were bullied, even if you were bullied in school a lot, that could have an effect later on. I'm not saying you can't solve that. I'm not saying you should be a victim because of that. That's not going to help you. That's the sad part. You could be like, I'm a victim. This was done wrong. That was done wrong. I mean, I could complain about, my kind of the left side of my shoulder is, I'm partially paralyzed, it seems like, back here. My neck has hurt me constantly for 5 years. There's a lot of certain movements I can't do with my shoulder. It's really negatively impacted my life in a lot of ways. It's given me migraines. I mean, I would give away probably every penny I had to fix this issue. I've really been trying to fix this issue. But I think I'll be able to. I think I'll be able to. I really, in the law of attraction, you say you got to feel like you're already fixed. And I think that's important. I know a lot of people, like a lot of times maybe I haven't been as good at this. Maybe it's kind of, I got to take accountability for this. I haven't been as good as that. I got to keep saying my shoulder is fine. My shoulder is fixed. My neck is fine. My neck doesn't hurt anymore. It doesn't bother me anymore. I have perfect posture. I could, on this side, see how I could go back on this. That side, it's paralyzed. I can't really do that. I can't move back. And, it's always winging up on this side. It's always weird like that. And it hurts. For most of my life, it was always like this, but it never really hurt me until like 5 years ago. And a lot of people didn't really, some people took it seriously. A lot of people didn't, that's another thing too. I don't want to like blame it kind of on my father, but he always said, it wasn't an issue. He said he was like that when everybody's like that. You'll grow out of it, you'll gain weight, and then it won't be as noticeable. That it was, and when you're getting answers like that, you're kind of on your own. But you can't blame. You would say like, oh, maybe it could have been. You could blame and say, blame it on somebody else. Maybe they could have solved it. They were ignorant, about it or whatever. But you can't go back. You just gotta move on, and you can't like hold a grudge about those things. We all weren't given the best circumstances. We all weren't given the best circumstances, but you just gotta focus on what you can do. What's that? So is it serenity prayer in the Bible or whatever? God grant me the strength to change the things that are possible to change. And, I forget what it is, but it's kind of saying like, there is no, really all we have is the now. Everything in the past, like as Bob Proctor talked about a lot, you gotta let it go. You gotta just let it go and move on. And you always need to be excited for the future. I know Jake Ducey asked Bob Proctor when he was in his late 80s before he died, you're getting up there, what do you think about for the future? He's like, I'm excited for what's yet to come. Always be excited for what is yet to come, whether you're kind of at the end. Because, right now, with today's technology, we're all not going to live forever, but as some people like Dave Asprey think they could live till, I don't know, 150 something, you know, something that's like kind of eye-opening, something that a lot of people may not believe. And I think it's possible. Elon Musk talked about it, you know, a possibility of extending life by a lot. I think that will happen. I don't know necessarily. I think it would be good because you'd have more time. You know, if you didn't, for maybe the first 80 years of your life, you didn't really do the things you should have done, then you could kind of turn it around in a lot of ways. But, you know, I think ultimately the most important thing to take away from this is like anything is possible, and any problem that can be made can be fixed, I think that any problem that can be made, that's why I read in a lot of places, any problem that can be made can be fixed. And it's you just got to be positive about it and try to, you know, sometimes it's hard to really know, because they say in law of attraction, you got to feel like you already have the thing. Sometimes you don't really know how it would feel, but you'd probably be pretty happy. You'd probably be pretty excited, and you know, that's an important thing to think about. You know, you'd probably be pretty happy, pretty excited for the things you want. Ultimately, you know, just repeat like a lot of phrases. You know, I am wealthy, I am happy, I am rich. You know, I always repeat to myself, my shoulder is healed. You know, my neck is healed. I can move my shoulder in normal ways. You know, it doesn't hurt anymore. I would always kind of say that. You know, a lot of people, they're in debt maybe. That's always been a big talking point in the news or whatever. And the more you watch that kind of stuff, like the mainstream news, all that, you're going to be, you know, because that's going to give you kind of low self-esteem in some ways too, because it's just telling you everybody's screwed, everybody's this, everybody's that. You know what I mean? It kind of like it gives you a coping strategy for, you know, if you are kind of messing up, and it doesn't really motivate you in a lot of ways. It doesn't motivate you in a lot of ways. I remember like my father would always, when I was like younger, would always like tell me, you know, you're doomed, you're not going to be able to do this, you're not going to be able to get a job, you know, that type of stuff. And he always, I always see on, you know, Fox News or this or CNN, you know, this type of stuff, they're saying, you know, this amount of people are in debt. And it was always like, you know, I mean, maybe it's true. I'm sure it could be true. You know, they always spin those things in a certain way to get as many people to click on them as possible. That's kind of how it works on YouTube too. You see that. I mean, it's a lot of how it is. And, you know, it's always framed in a certain way. You know, it's always spun in a certain way. And a lot of that won't help you. You got to kind of create your own reality. Create the things that you kind of want to look at. And I think ultimately you can. And I think that a lot of people have. And I think, you know, you shouldn't overcomplicate it too much, because, you know, there's people that are billionaires. There's people that are multimillionaires that they don't have an above average IQ too much. What they have is probably a lot of positive thinking, and they were willing to try. And, you know, people talk about quantum physics, they talk about law of attraction, which is it's all energy. You know, there's all moving particles. Everything is energy. Money is energy. If you're able to get on the right vibration, this is stuff I'm still learning. It's a little bit complicated. If anybody's got some good videos about that type of stuff, let me know in the comments. But yeah, that's an important thing to kind of think about too. I mean, and yeah, I mean, you got to be grateful. I think gratitude too. Like, just be grateful. Look around you. You know, be grateful, even if you're feeling depressed. You know, not the best day. You know, go outside. That's an important thing. Get some sunlight. They say even scientifically, being by water, being by a lake or an ocean, can boost your mood. You know, I always be grateful for what you do have, even if it's something small. You know, be grateful for that. And it's all they say, feeling's a secret. You know, think back to some good times in your life where, because everybody's succeeded a few times. Everybody's had like some luck, I think. And look back to one of those times and think about how you felt. Think about how good it felt and try to recreate that feeling. Sometimes it could be, you know, easier said than done, but I think that's ultimately something really important to try, something really important to think about. And ultimately, you know, we come into a time where there's a lot of censorship. We come into a time where things are, you know, since the pandemic, a little bit more draconian. Things are changing, potentially a new world order coming, more conflicts, you know, Russia, Ukraine. And you kind of got to prepare for that, prepare for what could be ahead, and make the best decisions, kind of for yourself and what you can do. And I can't give you all the answers. I don't know. Nobody can predict the future exactly how it is, but I think what we can predict, what I can predict, is as long as I pretend to be something, as long as, as delusional it sounds, as long as I pretend to be something, as long as I act like I deserve something, as long as I act like I am something, I will go into this path to get it. And a lot of times that happens in your life. Some people, Jake Ducey was saying in a video, some people, they're crap magnets. They always have the worst luck. Nothing works for them. Other people, they have the best luck in the world. How does that work? Is it just coincidence? Maybe, but maybe it's up here. Maybe it's the way they're connecting with the universe. Maybe it's that. Dr. Joe Dispenza says, can you be grateful for a future that has not been made manifest yet? I believe that's the quote. Be grateful for something that's not there yet. What do you really want? If you had all the time and all the money in the world, what would you do? Envision that. I'm sure there's something. I'm sure there's something. It's a lot of things you can do, a lot of possibilities. Be grateful for that already. Think about that. Be grateful for that. Try to visualize that. There's a lot of interesting things. I know a guy, I saw a guy who he would like post pictures. He'd Photoshop like how many followers he had on Instagram to like 1 million or whatever when he had like almost none, you know what I mean? And he actually got to those goals, which is pretty wild. So if you could feel that, that's pretty wild. Like certain techniques like that. And that's what I saw a lot, because when I went back to like when I was in college, a lot of kids from very, very wealthy families. And I didn't know too much about law of attraction back then, but a lot of them did, especially like some of these girls are more into this stuff a little bit, I think, overall. I think girls mature a little bit faster than guys and figure out some stuff quicker, obviously. I don't know though, but they would do like vision boards, that type of stuff. That's like more, girls are way more into that. But and a lot of those things kind of came to fruition. They'd put, I don't know what that, I don't even know what they put on it, but I don't know. Like there was something about that, something about that, like exploration, like, when I was in college, I wish I did, like if I could go back, I wish I traveled a little bit more back then. I wish I went to Mexico back then. That would have been fun. I wish I went to Central America. I wish I explored a little bit more back then. I was too caught up in just one area, kind of. So that's the way I look at it. And there's always more possibilities. Don't get too, dopamine detox could be important too. Don't get too, if you're able to, I'm sure some people will make it through this entire, almost 30-minute video here, but don't get too caught up in the TikTok and the Instagram. Some of that could be useful, but it's just too short a lot of times. It's just too short. Like how much could you really learn in that 20 seconds, The more the long form stuff, I think kind of the heydays of YouTube, like right before TikTok, like from 2014, 2015 onto 2018, 2019, like right before the pandemic, right before TikTok came out. Really, I would say, yeah, probably 2014 to 2018, that 4-year period, that was an interesting time. Even before that, even like right around the Great Recession, that was an interesting time. I'm not saying that like more good things can't happen, but there were certain times that maybe I'm just getting older, I don't know, but there's certain, probably like other times too, that older people, baby boomers, older generations talk about. A lot of people talk about the 1980s, the 90s or whatever, like those good times. They probably remember, those experiences, the things they learned when they were younger. And, they kind of wish probably some aspects, there's pros and cons to it. They probably wish some aspects were like they were back then, and they probably wish something. So you can't really have it both ways. But there's certain things that I always kind of think about here. So I want to leave you guys off with that. That's pretty much all I got right now. So really appreciate you guys for watching this. If you enjoy this type of content, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below if you got anything to say. All right, guys, have a good one. Goodbye.